Video 3, Deconstructing the NCHEC Scenario Area 0, both sub-competencies. Review the learning objectives for this video. This is one of my favorite topics to teach because it can genuinely change how you perform on exam day. One of the biggest reasons candidates choose incorrect answers on the Certified Health Education Specialist, or CHES, and Master Certified Health Education Specialist, or MCHES, exam is not a lack of knowledge. It is a failure to read the question carefully, and I do not want that to happen to you. The exam, administered by the National Commission for Health Education Credentialing, or NCHEC, is full of scenario-based questions that describe a real-world situation and then ask you to select the best course of action. These scenarios can be 3, 4, or even 5 sentences long, and buried within all that context is the actual question you need to answer. This is where the stop and identify technique becomes your most valuable tool. Let me walk you through how it works, step by step. First, read the entire scenario stem from beginning to end without looking at the answer choices. This is really important because it prevents you from being anchored by a plausible sounding distractor before you even understand the question. Second, identify the role you are playing. Are you the health education specialist, the program manager, or a consultant? The role determines which actions are appropriate. Also note the setting. Are you in a community health center, a school district, or a corporate wellness program? Third, locate the trigger word in the question. Words like first, best, priority, most appropriate, and next step each signal a specific type of reasoning. We will explore these trigger words in detail on the next slide, and they are going to make a huge difference for you. Fourth, before you even glance at the answer choices, predict what you think the correct answer should be based on your knowledge. This mental prediction acts as an anchor that protects you from being swayed by clever distractors. Finally, compare your prediction to the 4 answer options and select the one that most closely matches. Once you start using this technique consistently, you will be amazed at how much more confident you feel working through those scenario questions. Now we are getting into something really important, and I want you to pay close attention here because this can be a real game changer for your exam score. Trigger words are the single most important element to identify in any exam question because they tell you exactly what type of answer NCHEC is looking for. Let us walk through each one carefully together. When a question says first, it is asking for the initial action in a logical sequence. This does not mean the most important action overall. It means the action that should happen before anything else. For example, if the question asks, what should the health education specialist do first when planning a new program, the answer is almost certainly related to needs assessment, not implementation. When a question says best, it signals that more than one answer choice may be technically correct, but one is superior to the others. NCHEC wants you to choose the option that reflects the strongest evidence base, the most complete approach, or the most professional standard of practice. The word priority shifts the focus to urgency and ranking. In a scenario where multiple needs are competing for attention, you must evaluate which one demands immediate action. Think about safety, ethical obligations, and time-sensitive factors. The phrase most appropriate adds a layer of contextual judgment. The correct answer depends not just on what is generally right, but on what is right for this specific population, setting, or situation described in the scenario. Lastly, next step assumes that certain actions have already been completed and asks you to identify the logical continuation. Read the scenario carefully to determine where you are in the process before selecting your answer. Now here's the key thing I really want you to take away from this. Misreading a trigger word is one of the fastest ways to choose a wrong answer, even when you know the underlying content perfectly well. As you practice with the scenario questions throughout this course, make it a habit to underline or mentally highlight the trigger word before you do anything else. Over time, this will become second nature, and you will approach each question with the precision that the exam demands. You are building a really strong foundation here. Now that you understand trigger words, let me walk you through the most common misreading traps that cause candidates to lose points on questions they actually know the answer to. And trust me, once you are aware of these traps, you will start catching them before they catch you. The number one trap is answering what is most important when the question asked what comes first. These are fundamentally different questions. Evaluation might be the most important part of a program, but if the question asks what the specialist should do first, the answer is likely related to conducting a needs assessment. The second trap is choosing a correct action from the wrong phase of the process. Imagine a scenario where a program has already been implemented and the question asks about the next step. If you select an answer related to planning, you are choosing something that is technically correct as a health education activity, but wrong in the context of where the scenario places you in the timeline. The third trap involves ignoring the specific population or setting described in the scenario. An intervention that works beautifully for college students may be completely inappropriate for elderly adults in a rural community. NCHEC expects you to consider the audience described in the STEM when selecting your answer. The fourth trap is overlooking qualifying phrases like "at this point, given these results," or "based on the data." These phrases narrow the scope of the question and change which answer is correct. Always circle or mentally highlight these phrases because they contain essential context. I know this might feel like a lot to keep track of, but here is the good news. The more you practice, the more automatic this becomes. In the next video, we will build on these skills by examining how distractors are specifically designed to exploit these exact misreading patterns. You are doing great sticking with this material. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is B. The trigger word is first, which means we need the initial action in sequence. Before materials can be designed, findings presented, or goals revised, the raw data must be organized and analyzed. Option B is the necessary precursor to all other options. Options A, C, and D are all legitimate actions, but they cannot occur until the data has been properly analyzed. Summarize the key takeaways before